perfect security doesn't really exist.
You must care about the security of your e-commerce website. I mean, if you're hacked, your brand will suffer, and it's not only you that are hacked, it's also all your customers. Yeah, so I've hacked multiple e-commerce sites out there and helped them with penetration testing. So Magento is by design pretty secure, I would say. The thing is, when you run your e-commerce website, you want a custom theme, you want some custom modules, and you also have a bunch of systems around it. Maybe you have a company blog, like, I don't know, all kinds of systems around it. And all of these can lead to having your Magento website like less secure. Say I have a vulnerability on like some tracking tool you use on your website, that could then lead to cross-site scripting and so forth. So by me hacking one of your vendors, which will then allow me to get access to your website. If I'm targeting one, I will focus on the stuff around it to get some kind of foothold. Yeah. Especially if I'm targeting big websites, which I'm doing. I mean, if an attacker on the internet were to hack an e-commerce website, it doesn't have to be Magento. What they would do is to put a backdoor in there and just be sneaky in the background. Like change some shipping details and so forth to get some goods.
In those instances where I've hacked e-commerces, it's often been by using other outdated version of a CMS or third-party extensions to look for like outdated already public vulnerabilities and then use them against you. The hackers often prefer like the low-hanging fruits.
It's most often bots that like just scours the internet and tries to hack whatever they come across. And this was one of the biggest e-commerce sites in the world. And I found like multiple legacy systems residing on that domain with weak credentials, outdated software, and so forth, which allowed me to manipulate some of their JavaScript files, which in turn gave me like persistent cross-site scripting on the e-commerce. Using that, then I could change orders, like see who was buying what and so forth. So I believe the most common security mistakes is cross-site scripting flaws, which is like the ability for an attacker to run arbitrary JavaScript on the website. That can then be used to, like, you can track what orders people are buying, you can manipulate them, change the shipping address, and steal the goods they're buying. Depending like a bit on how the website is set up, you can also get like administrator cookies and so forth. And if that happens, you as an attacker will gain full admin privileges to the e-commerce website. There are so many ways to get cross-site scripting flaws. It could be by your theme, it could be some ad on some other third-party website, which will then exploit it on your website. It's like it could be a bad tracking tool that you're using to track orders and whatnot. And all of these kind of vectors to execute a cross-site scripting attack on your website can then lead to like basically full account takeover of your admin panel, as the admin panel resides on the same web pages as the rest of your order listings and so forth. It's also like very common to have like old software running. Say your Magento website, it lacks some security patch. Like if someone were then to weaponize and exploit and like target all Magento websites on the internet, you are likely to be vulnerable and attacked. But what you can do is be up to date on the latest security vulnerabilities in Magento. Like Magento.com have this changelog of security related patches and so forth. So I think the best advice is to be like staying up to date with that list. So if you order a new website, you usually have some kind of feature specification and some demands that have to be met. But most often it's not required that they have, like your partner have done a security audit.
If security isn't specified in your contract with your agency, I don't think you can take for granted that extensive amount of security. You can still, I think it should be assumed that they will keep it up to date, that they don't install like any extension at random, but that they actually have a basic check of it.
Very easy to forget about subdomains and other scripts and stuff you're loading into your website. All websites out there, they try to load external scripts, right? It's not only Magento and e-commerce websites that does it. But those third-party scripts can actually be sometimes abused by attackers to get persistent cross-site scripting, and like subdomains under your e-commerce website can be used then to also attackers' website. The scope is very big, and you must consider all possible vectors for an attacker to get in.
So previously Magento had problems with checking what users access their API, which meant that anyone that isn't logged into your web store could request the API, and by doing so get information about all your products. But there are still like many installations in the wild that we have found where if you know the API you can actually request like any of this information as you want without any check.
So it's very common for bots on the internet to try to find your Magento admin panel. And they do that in order to brute force common credentials. Say they try the username admin and then like common passwords. And if they manage to log in, then they can do whatever basically. Back to your website, get orders, and so forth. And there have been multiple vulnerabilities in Magento that will reveal the presence of the admin panel, because by default you have to change the location of it to some random string that only you as an owner of a Magento website knows. But if an attacker can figure out where it's actually located, then you are at the same risk as you were before.
So previously there were several ways that Magento actually disclosed this so-called secret URL, which means that the attacker, if they know about these vulnerabilities, could disclose the secret URL and access it anyway.
And even better is to even IP lock the admin panels, only you can access it. Another very common flaw is to have the root/downloader enabled. You probably haven't seen it or heard about it. But if you visit that one, an attacker can brute force admin credentials. And that's pretty bad. And if they get their credentials right, they will be redirected to the admin panel, even though it's like hidden and obfuscated.
You invite hackers to both try common passwords to brute force your system, and in general it widens the attack scope. Vulnerability that expose a lot of sensitive information about your customers and about your orders today still has this vulnerability, and this is very popular installation websites, and they are still very active. You can see in the order that people still use this or buy stuff here, and this was quite shocking for us because we did realize this is a very serious vulnerability.
So if your Magento store has been hacked, you might want to rush it and use a backup and so forth to recover from what have happened. But the best approach would be to call the police, because your website is an active crime scene. Even though you still have access to the website that can fix everything, you don't actually know the entire damage that have happened. It's better to call like law enforcement than have someone investigate what have actually gone on in your website.
The best recommendation, if possible, is to take a backup of your database and then do a full wipe or like reinstall your system. Make sure to take a backup of all the media and pictures as well. And then reinstall the Magento instance with the database that you have taken a backup of, as well as looking through the accounts, so just to make sure that the hacker hasn't added any admin accounts. And also, of course, changing all passwords. Assume that all passwords has been compromised. This goes from user accounts, or well, admin user accounts, to database passwords, servers passwords, SSH passwords, like everything on the server side. And also be transparent towards your customers about this hack. If there are like the slightest possibility that customer data is out, be transparent to that, because if the customer hears from you that they have been your data has been compromised, they're more friendly about it than if they hear it or well see the leak in other medias. But if you want to discover this backdoor for forensic investigation and so, download the version of Magento you have installed and make a diff of it to see what files have been changed, and also depending on how good the attacker is, you can see what files have been changed since the attack. But if the attacker knows what they're doing, it won't show up there. So the best recommendation is still to just do a clean install of the system.
So a big thing that happened was in 2015. It was this vulnerability that came out called, or dubbed, Magento Shoplift. It was like a SQL injection which allowed attackers to break into Magento websites, create new administrator accounts, and then like get full privileges to the entire e-commerce. If you are vulnerable to that one, it's basically game over, and chances are that you're already attacked by it. And I mean, it's very hard to be proactive against these kind of attacks, but what you can do is be up to date on the latest security vulnerabilities in Magento. Then there are a couple of cross-site scripting flaws in a few flash files that are very prominent over many versions of Magento. And those flaws can lead to all kinds of consequences, basically. And as they are so common, your customers are most likely still running Flash in their web browsers, then, you know, even though it's deprecated, attackers may still leverage this to, like, try to hack your customers. You must care about the security of your e-commerce website. I mean, if you're hacked, your brand will suffer, and it's not only you that are hacked, it's also all your customers. And I mean, if you are hacked, your competitors can basically do espionage on you, see what products that sell, what doesn't sell, and if you're big enough, like, they can trade stocks and so forth, using this information that you're like unwillingly leaking from your website.
The biggest reason for e-commerce to care about security is the trust you have from your users or customers. Because if you get hacked and all your customer data is leaked on the internet, all your trust disappears like overnight.